welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here today, my name is Mystique and welcome to the Magical Rainbow Alpaca. For anyone who's a subscriber of my channel, you'll already know this, but if you are not a subscriber to my channel and this is the first video that you've ever seen of mine, then you will not know that I've been on a healing journey for about 2 years now. I started my healing journey in September 2020 and it's been a rocky roller coaster of a ride since then. Now that I've been healing myself and I've become a more healed version of myself, I can't help but notice all of the people around me basically are unhealed. A majority of the population on this planet are unhealed, and you know what? I thought I would do my due diligence to basically share with the world how I have been healing myself. It's taken me a long time to basically figure out all the techniques and how to completely heal yourself so that you become a new wholesome version of yourself and you're no longer a slave to your mind. So the first one is probably going to be the one that people have the most struggle with, and that's because you need to release any traumatic emotions that you may be holding within your body. So essentially, when we're going through trauma, if we haven't been taught the techniques to help us work through our emotions while going through trauma, and this will be a strong case for someone that has endured childhood trauma. If you are going through trauma, usually it's your parents who are inflicting the trauma on you. And something that I realized I didn't touch on in the video is that trauma doesn't necessarily always come from your parents in childhood. It can come from many other different places as well. It can come from teachers. It can come from friends, like if you're being excluded, if you have 2 friends that are hanging out without you, that can be a traumatic event in your life. Or if you were bullied extensively, that can also be a traumatic experience within your childhood. There's so many different things that can occur that can count as trauma within your childhood. Anytime you were made to feel any kind of a painful emotion during childhood counts as childhood trauma. I just wanted to quickly say that. Because you didn't have the emotional support you needed, you weren't able to work through the emotions that needed to be released in order to move on from that event. And because you weren't able to move on from that event and the emotions that are tied to that event are still gonna be lingering and dwelling in your body. The longer and longer traumatic emotions stay stagnant in your body, then the more and more havoc that will come upon your body. That's why you want to eliminate these traumatic emotions. And the way that I've been doing this, I have been going back into my memories and thinking about any memories that I had experienced any kind of pain from, or they hurt me. Basically anything that made me feel like a negative emotion. And now this is where it really differs if you grew up in an abusive household or if you grew up in a loving, supportive household. So if you grew up in a loving, supportive household, you're not gonna have as many negative emotions to release. And they may not be as in depth as someone who has gone through an abusive family in any way, shape, or form, like physical, mental, verbal, or an alcoholic parent. If you've grown up in that kind of environment, it's going to take you quite a bit longer to heal because you have more negative emotions that are swimming all within your energetic body. Something that I've done while on my journey is compare myself to people who have seemed to have had an easier life than me, mostly because like in my family, I was ostracized and I was shamed for being who I was. It's taken me a really long time to feel okay to be myself Whereas someone who has grown up in an environment where they were supported in who they were by their family, they would already feel like it's okay to be themselves. And I would always compare myself to those people and be like, why can't I be where they are? They didn't have to rebuild themselves like you have. And so that's something, if you're on a healing journey from any kind of abuse, it's okay to be where you are, and it's okay to not be as far as someone else, because you never know what kind of background that person has. You never know if they've had a family supporting them all along the way. You don't know if they've had emotionally mature parents leading them along the way and helping them all along the way, unlike you have had. That's when you really realize that not everybody's journey is the same. Anyways, I went off on a little tangent there. Back to releasing emotions is that this is not going to be easy. This is going to be really, really, really tough. You are going to be feeling any kind of painful emotions that you have either repressed or suppressed, and you're going to be bringing it all back up to the surface to be all felt again. Oh joy. It's not easy, but once you start releasing all of those emotions and you start crying to release those emotions, you feel so much better. You feel so much more lighter as a person. Even though it's been painful to transcend those negative emotions, I would never take it back. I just feel like a whole new version of myself. I feel like a stronger version of myself. I feel like I needed to endure that pain in order to make me a stronger version of myself. When you decide to face these painful emotions because you are deciding to, when you decide to go and face your painful memories and transcend those painful emotions, how I feel after transcending many negative emotions is like there's a fire that is burning within you. It's like your soul's eternal fire. It's like you were the person who saw potential in this fire. You felt this fire burning there. And it's like you have been the one to put like twigs on the fire at first. And then you finally found logs. And then you're the person who's built up this fire all within you. And this fire is like your zest for life. This is your fire that keeps you going even when times get tough. And because you've built this fire all within you, no matter what anyone says or does can never put out the flames to this fire within you. That's how I would explain releasing your emotions within you. Is that, yeah, it sucks when you're doing it. It sucks so much. Afterward, you feel so much more empowered. You feel like a much more empowered version of yourself that can overcome anything, basically. Because if you can overcome the painful emotions of your past, then you can basically overcome anything. So that's why it's so important to do that in a healing journey. And trust me, when you start going back and releasing those emotions, you'll start to find that if you have any kind of like mental illness, it doesn't have as strong of a hold on you anymore. Because years ago, my mind controlled me instead of me controlling my mind. And even though it's not perfect, because I'm still on my healing journey still, I'm in a much better, more stable mental space. My mind isn't controlling me as much. That's why this is so important, because when you actually start to do the work, you'll start to notice results. So basically, for a majority of my healing journey, I basically thought that that was the only part you needed to do in order to heal, and I couldn't have been more wrong. Releasing your emotions is probably one of the most important parts, but when I wasn't healing how I wanted to, I still found like my mind wasn't where I wanted it to be, and I was like, okay, nah, this isn't how I want to live. I want to be able to live my life and not have anxiety consume me. There has to be more to this healing thing than just releasing stuff. That's when I did some digging, and it took me a while to basically figure out the rest of these. The next thing that really kind of cements a mentally stable mind in place is reparenting yourself. Basically, this is going to be monumental for someone who has gone through childhood trauma. This is being that emotional support that you needed when you were going through trauma. This is basically like hyping yourself up. So how many of us have a negative voice just yapping at the back of your mind being like, oh, you can't do this, you suck, you're ugly, blah, 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 blah. That's because you were criticized and you never had any emotional support to lead you through that and help you release that. In my healing journey, I became the parent that I always needed. In my case, my parents were not very emotionally mature, and so I very much lacked emotional support from my family, and so I had a very poor self-esteem because of them criticizing me all the flippin' time. I thought I had no value or self-worth at all unless I was perfect, and I am very much far from being perfect, so I felt so much shame regarding who I am. I basically was ashamed to exist. I've been talking to my inner child, basically been hyping her up with all the things that I needed to hear as a kid. And there's so many different things that an inner child can be told to help it. So I can't even like tell you all of them. I'll just give a few examples that are so broad. I'm so proud of you. You are such a cool kid. You are adequate. You are so special. I love you so much. Those are pretty broad phrases to help your inner child. In the beginning, when you're trying to talk to your inner child, those are gonna be very helpful because those are probably things that your inner child has been dying to hear. Those are definitely gonna help right away. And when you get to know all the different places where your inner child is wounded, you'll start to know what you need to say to your inner child in order to help them move on and help them build a self-esteem and a better self-concept. So the next thing that I have coincides with releasing our painful emotions. It all has to do with creating the opposite of our painful emotions. So when we release our emotions, it kind of creates a blank space where that emotion used to be. Something that I've noticed, if you're really trying to evolve yourself and become a different version of yourself, if you're trying to become the best version of yourself, releasing the emotions isn't enough. And I'm not saying that it's for nothing, because it's probably the most important part. Once you release that negative, painful emotion, that painful energy from your energetic body, if you don't replace it with a positive energy or a positive emotion, you're not going to build the best self-concept of yourself. We are a composure of all of our emotions that we've ever felt in our life. The more happy emotions that a person has been made to feel is going to linger within their energetic field. So basically what I would do is that once I've released a negative emotion, I start creating the opposite of that negative emotion within myself. So I basically just like imagine that I'm feeling that. Right now I've been releasing a lot of shame that's been stuck in my body that has been put there from my parents. And once I release that shame, I basically start to force myself to feel the opposite of that shame. And what's the opposite of shame is being like proud of yourself. And this is where imagination is going to be your best friend. If you find that you're struggling to create these opposite emotions within you, no need to worry about it. You can always do it further down the line. I know that happened for me too when I first started my healing journey. I I turned off my emotions for like 8 years, so that's of course why. When you have a buildup of unresolved emotions stuck within your energetic body, it makes it so you're unable to feel any emotions, basically. By you being so chocked full of negative emotions, you actually aren't able to feel those positive emotions. Honestly, there's no need to fret if you can't feel those emotions. You can always do it later. I bet that after you've been releasing emotions for a couple months, you will be able to start creating positive emotions within yourself. And something to help you remember to go back and start feeling the opposite of those emotions that you've released is always write them down. So like for me, in my phone, whenever I figure out a limiting belief, whenever I release something that's significant, I always write it down in my phone. I have so many flippin' notes, all regarding like my healing journey, like it's not even funny. Like I even write down all the affirmations that help my inner child. I basically have documented my healing journey all on my phone. It's so helpful to see what you worked on. And you know what? This wasn't even gonna be a point on this video, but you know what? I'm gonna make it a point. Is that document your healing journey. Because honestly, I believe that it can influence you to heal more. Down the line, if you go back and read your notes and see where you've all healed, you'll have a different perspective on it than when you healed it, because you'll have progressed along in your healing journey, and now you'll have, as I said, have a different perspective. Because when you continue to heal yourself, your perspective on life, on your healing journey, is always changing. If you write down everything, whenever you decide to reflect on it, you might have a different epiphany or a different thought that might pop into your head that might help you heal something else. And it's also cool to see how far you've come in your healing journey. So this last thing that I'm gonna put on this video is definitely not the last thing that I have been doing to heal my trauma. I have made this video a little bit longer than I thought I was going to have made it. I'm just going to include the things that have been the most influential and the most helpful in my healing journey. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is journaling. It is so overlooked. I cannot even begin to tell you guys how helpful journaling is. Journaling is such a helpful way to explore yourself, and it helps you realize things about yourself that you don't even realize are there. It will help you unravel thoughts that you believe, some of them being limiting beliefs. It helps you unravel feelings that you have about things. It'll make you more aware of how you feel towards things, and you didn't even realize that you felt that way. And it's like, holy flippers! It just makes you more aware of the things that you didn't realize are swimming all in your subconscious mind, that are running your everyday life without you being aware of it. And it's like, holy, no wonder I am mentally ill if this is my limiting belief, my goddamn. Journaling has literally changed my life because it's made me so much more aware of how I feel and how I think on the inside. Not only is journaling that, but I have come to learn that journaling is a mirroring technique. So what that means is that it makes you feel validated. So whenever you're feeling something and you're looking for it to be validated, journaling makes you feel internally validated when you do it. And that's so important because that's how you build self-concept. If you always need other people's opinions before you do something, it's because you don't trust yourself. It's because you haven't had proper mirroring so that you've learned to trust yourself. When you begin journaling, it's you mirroring yourself. You don't need another person to mirror you. You don't need someone else to validate you. When you're looking to be mirrored outside of you, that just causes all sorts of problems. Whenever you look outside of yourself, it's just never solved. The best way to solve it is by doing it yourself. Mirror yourself by doing journaling. And if you're not a person who can just be like, dear diary, then like that's okay. Like you don't need to be a person that be like, dear diary, George made me mad today because of blah blah blah. I want to slap him silly because he's a douche canoe. If you're not that kind of journaling person, then that's fine. Kind of journaling, like I don't do that. I used to do that kind of journaling. I don't do that kind of journaling anymore. The journaling that I'm talking about is a different kind. Have any of you heard about Pinterest? I'm pretty sure you probably have because it's flippin' ginormous. Bitches fucking love it. So, I mean, I'm one of those bitches. Like, don't come for me in the comments. I'm one of those bitches, okay? I fucking love Pinterest. You can go on Pinterest. If you look up like journaling prompts, you can look up like, there's so many different kinds that you can look up. There's self-discovery, there's shadow work, which is healing trauma. But there's so many different kinds of journal prompts that you can look up on there that really make you dive deep within yourself. I personally found those very, very, very helpful. Once you're like comfortable with journaling, like when you become more self-aware of yourself, start to take notice that you like do certain things, you act in certain ways. When you're used to journaling, you can actually like focus in on that by journaling about that and dissecting it. That is when I started to really learn about myself, because I'd be like, okay, why do I act like this? I would start journaling and it'd be like, oh, bitch, please, it's because of A, B, C, D, E that I feel like this, and that makes me feel like A, B, C, D. And I'd be like, oh, no wonder I'm mentally messed up. Journaling has changed my life. And once you start to use it properly, it will probably change yours. And it'll make you very, very aware in all the ways and places you need to help yourself. And just something else I want to add on the end is I've been also doing art therapy. I really love this because it really helps you invoke your creative side. Your emotions really, really enjoy being creatively expressed. And that's one of the best ways to express your emotions. My favorite channel on YouTube to watch, her name is Erica Pang, but I don't remember what her channel exactly is. I'll leave it in the description box down below for anyone who's interested. But on that note, those were all the different things that I have been using to heal my trauma. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you are not yet a baby alpaca, hit that subscribe button just down there to join the baby alpaca family. And until next time, my baby alpacas, I love you all so much. Bye!